Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome back once again, or for the very first time, to the Farts and Crap Show, where today, as per usual, it's your host Danjo here with another episode of Stick Tips. I believe today is going to be part 38. And, yeah. Real quick, this is the GameSir Tegenaria Lite. Tegenaria Lite. I'm not sure how you pronounce this. It's also known as the GameSir T3 Lite wired game controller. According to the official manual, which was a little bit hard to find, but there is a link to their landing page, which, yes, just gamesir.com/pages/support, and also a handy little QR for those of you who are into QR codes. But yeah, quick little TLDR for you guys. It's very good. I had some issues. I have some thoughts and reactions. This is being recorded after about 12 hours of testing. Maybe. Somewhere between 10 and 15. Somewhere in there. So this is not what I usually do. Typically, I do a lot more testing than that for all of these Stick Tips episodes. So this is really an early impressions thing, but yeah, I wanted to get this out quickly because this controller is on a Black Friday deal right now for Amazon US. I think for other regions as well, it's already a budget controller at 20 USD. But you can get 23% off right now, which is essentially $4 off. So yeah, a very solid controller for only 16 bucks at the time of recording. And I will make sure to put this video out on or before Black Friday. So yeah, and it's very strange. It's a very strange thing to see this kind of controller. One, I should note, it's my first GameSir controller. I've never really been a fan of theirs. I've seen their controllers around. I just have never owned one. And it's almost as if... Because one thing I want to call attention to here in the listing, it has 1000 hertz polling rate, which is very, very cool. Also, Hall effect sticks. Like, it's amazing how compelling they made it for people that are into retro gaming. As well as like it has so many use case scenarios, and it was also very interesting. It came with a little thank you note. Like, it didn't come with a manual, unfortunately. They're just like, yeah, go to the website and check it out. And it wasn't signed by hand, obviously. This is like a printed autograph thing. But Betacor, apparently, the CEO of GameSir, wanted to put like a little note on each of these. And it comes in a couple different languages as well. Not 100% positive what. Merci de nous. Oh, that's French, I'm pretty sure. And then it is critical. Okay, I think the last one is Spanish. Not 100% positive, but anyway. English is my language. I'm very fluent, and so I will stick with that one. At the top, it does say, "Dear customer, thank you for giving us the opportunity to grow, develop, and realize our ideas. Whenever you play with wired or wireless devices on mobile, PC, or consoles, for FPS, MOBA, or RTS games." Oh, that's it? Just those three? No, they're trying to be inclusive. Yeah, many use case scenarios. "We wish to be your best companion. We look forward to building and strengthening our relationship. Hope that we can contribute to materializing your ideas in the future." And I love the way they put that because, as I said, this controller checks a lot of boxes for me. The analog sticks are nice. This was like an image I took immediately after unboxing it, so I guess this counts as an unboxing video. And immediately I was like, okay, yeah, they kind of nailed the original PS1 like DualShock vibes here a little bit. I liked the overall presentation. It was very minimalist with like the packaging and everything, but I liked the overall design. Like, they kind of have these like dome areas for the D-pad and the ABXY, which I think work very well. That is kind of different from the PS1 design where they are very flat, but it it plays to the strengths of the ergonomics. So for like retro gaming where those are your main inputs, ABXY and like your D-pad, this is a solid option. Like, and it doesn't pigeonhole itself. Like, it's a very capable Pro controller. It has all the inputs you need for like multiple platforms, which is really cool. And it was really hard to get a good image of this, honestly. But it's got back buttons, very similar to some controllers that I'm going to be talking about here in a second, and that I talked about in the last episode of Stick Tips. But the design there is very similar, and the textured grip on the back half of the shell is, dare I say, like, it's very comfortable. And like the front half of the shell is this like matte, like I think it might be ABS plastic. It feels pretty good. Like, fairly comparable to some of those other controllers that this might have a leg up on, potentially. And yeah, so here's the lineup. Last episode of Stick Tips, I was talking about the 8BitDo Pro 2 for Xbox after a year of the Hall Effect version being my primary controller. And I've talked about these other ones on Stick Tips before, but it's very obvious what the competition is here. And it is pretty similar to the Pro 2, like, in a couple of different ways. But here's the thing, and these are MSRP, like, not sale prices or anything. Like, it's pretty easy to find any of these controllers on discount. But the Pro 2 wired, which I've talked about before extensively on this channel, MSRP is for $35. The Pro 2 for Xbox, the Hall Effect version, the one that's currently available, is $45. The Pro 2 wireless, the Bluetooth version, I have the transparent black version here. MSRP's for $50. Although, currently also on a Black Friday deal, you can get the new Pro 3 for $55. So if you've been waiting for a sale on that one, that is the first time I've seen it discounted. But the GameSir T3 Lite is $20. So almost half the price of the Pro 2 wired. Although you can get $5 off on the Pro 2 wired right now. So honestly, I don't think it's trying to compete necessarily with like the Pro 2 Bluetooth or the Pro 2 for Xbox. Those do feel a little bit nicer. They are more feature rich for sure. Like build quality and other stuff like that. They offer more. Like, I love the Pro 2 for Xbox so much, and I talked about that in the last episode. It is pretty much my favorite controller. But this actually is kind of better than the Pro 2 wired. For a couple of different reasons. It doesn't have the customizability. With the Pro 2 wired, you have 8BitDo's Ultimate software, to where you can customize all kinds of things about the controller and set up like separate profiles for different things. And it's got 4 different modes of communication, which the GameSir T3 Lite also has, although you can't customize that in software. However, the Pro 2 wired does not have Hall effect sticks. They're your pretty standard, typical Alps sticks. They are prone to drift. Mine does have about 7%, maybe 8% drift. My Pro 2 wired, and I have heard from other commenters and stuff on my dedicated video about the Pro 2 wired that various things do fail. That was part of the reason I made that video, is because my L1 or R1 broke and I had to replace it, which thankfully the L1s and R1s from the SN30 Pro Plus, no, the SN30 Pro USB are pretty much exactly the same. They do fit, so I was able to kind of sacrifice my SN30 Pro USB, which is fine because I've had that controller for many years and I don't really use it anymore because it is very worn down. But yeah, at least right now with like discounts and stuff, yeah, the T3 Lite from GameSir is 16 USD. Pro 2 wired is also on discount for 30. So right now it actually is half the price. And it actually feels better. So that's pretty impressive, honestly. Also, none of these controllers from 8BitDo have 1000 hertz polling rate. They don't have a Pro 2, and also the Pro 3 does not have that high of a polling rate. I think even in like 8BitDo is like kind of quiet about that kind of thing typically, except for the controllers that do have that. But even the new Pro 3, I think the fastest polling rate is like 250 hertz or something. It's kind of slow, honestly. And initially I thought this was just like marketing mumbo jumbo. And yeah, I wanted to get a better shot of the Pro 2 with like the translucent shell. It's a very pretty controller. I love this thing. Except for the fact that it's Bluetooth, and it's kind of hard to get it to work in wired mode a lot of the times. It does have the latency issue of Bluetooth, which as time goes on, I've just been more and more aware of it for games. And honestly, the only reason I picked this one up was for my Switch, because I needed something that could do motion controls. And for the most part, like wired controllers don't have gyro, and neither does this controller. More on that here in a bit. But it, like, the build quality and everything is very, very good. So anybody from 8BitDo, if you're watching this, I do love your controllers so much. And you guys throw awesome tech into some stuff occasionally, and I'm just like, okay, that's a great idea. Here's what I want. Here's how you can beat GameSir and make the price tag worth it in my book. Give it 1,000 hertz polling rate. I mean, give it a 2,000 hertz polling rate. I've seen controllers with 8,000 hertz polling rates now. Like, 1,000 hertz polling rate feels amazing, but for a wired controller, yeah, you could go above 1,000 hertz. So make it even faster. I think that was Razer recently that has the 8K controller or whatever. People are like, 8K, what do you mean? That's why it's called that. It has an 8,000 hertz polling rate. So give it the Pro 2 shell. Give it translucent shells, like the different colorways you guys did. Transparent black, the green one, the blue one, and then maybe just like a gray one. It's like, you know, transparent shells look amazing on your controllers. And make it wired. Make a wired version and make a 2.4 gigahertz version. Because, like, we don't really need Bluetooth for, like, anything. Or for the wireless version, give it, like, the toggle, like the Pro 3 has, where it can do Bluetooth or 2.4 gigahertz. But, I get it. That's, like, gonna raise the price a little bit. But have that be the only difference between the wired and the wireless version. And, yeah. Hall effect triggers and sticks, or TMR. But the Hall effect triggers from the Pro 2 for Xbox are very good. And give it those tactile dome switches on the L1s and R1s. And that's... Oh, and the new updated D-pad. That's like the tactile D-pad. And maybe for last thing that I just think would be a little bit better, finally maybe move away from like the SNES style D-pad. Like, that's just like an appearance thing, but in my opinion, the Saturn style D-pad is the way to go. That's like the most comfortable D-pad, period. And that would basically be a perfect controller, like, pretty much. The one other thing that is different design-wise on these is the T3 Lite. The parallel sticks are actually further apart. The Pro 2 style, the sticks are closer together. And that's one thing I actually do like better about the 8BitDo design. Because, like, the sticks almost get in the way of, like, the ABXY and the D-pad. Like, it's a tiny bit more obtrusive, but the grip, the ergonomics are different. So, like, I don't necessarily think it's bad. But yeah, I would put the T3 Lite, like, value-wise, kind of in between the Xbox Pro 2 and the Pro 2 wired. It's not quite as good as the Xbox Pro 2, but that's also over twice as expensive. Again, that's like MSRP's for $45. This one MSRP's for $20. And at that price point, I would just get 2 of the GameSir T3s. Like, honestly, as much as I love the Pro 2 for Xbox, like, it doesn't have different communication modes, which is a big downside for it. But if you're mainly using it for Xbox or PC gaming, then you don't need the other modes. Yeah, I could see why you'd just spend the $45 and get the Pro 2 for Xbox. But again, that polling rate, it has 1,000 hertz polling rate, which is huge. More on that here in a little bit. But yeah, the actual experience with this thing. So immediately out of the box, I noticed some weirdness. So I was like, okay, do I need to update the firmware? Like, is there a way to like customize some of this stuff? Again, this is my first GameSir controller, so I didn't really know what the deal was, so I went to go check out their website since it didn't come with a manual, and that's the website again right there in the top right. And for some reason, it only showed like a link to their Discord and a QR code again. But like the QR code is supposed to redirect to the support page, so I was like, where's the manual? Like, you guys clarified that there was a manual. You have to click on manuals again after switching to the manuals tab, which was strange. And then it'll download the PDF. But yeah, that was not straightforward at all. Would have been nice to have a dedicated link, but those buttons were acting like tabs and like cycling between things, so whatever. Also, the T3 Lite is compatible with GameSir Connect, which is like their app that for the T3 Lite actually doesn't really do much of anything. You can download it directly off their website or from the Microsoft Store for those of you on Windows. And it's fine. It honestly doesn't really do much. After booting it up, there's a input tester, and that's pretty much all you can do. Aside from, you can also update the firmware on the app, but it doesn't tell you. I don't think it told me there's a firmware update. I just like was clicking around seeing what the app could do, and it is nice to confirm inputs and stuff, but for some reason the triggers, which apparently are membrane analog triggers, which I'm not sure what the mechanism is there, and like I don't think any 8BitDo controllers use membrane triggers. I'm kind of tempted to disassemble this thing to find out, but it's my only one right now. Once I get a spare, I'll be like a lot more, into that sort of thing. Also, inevitably, I'm going to disassemble it and like check out its innards and clean it up anyway in a few months. But yeah, there was always a 1% input on the triggers, even at rest, which was very strange. It would not go down to 0. So when I was trying to map the back buttons, for example, or set turbo, or I think the back buttons can also act as macros, it wasn't doing any of these things correctly because it was always reading that 1% input. So I thought mine was busted or something, or it was just like a bad firmware or something. But even after updating the firmware, it didn't get rid of these ghost inputs on the triggers. So I found this snippet in the manual about calibration. So for the sticks and the triggers. And there's no way to customize this, but you can calibrate them. So you hold the view, menu, and home buttons until the controller vibrates once to enter the calibration. The indicator will flash slowly in white during entry. Ensure that the triggers and sticks are not being touched. Press the A button once, and push both sticks fully to their limits, like to the edge, and rotate in full circles, like while the sticks are making contact with the anti-friction rings 2 or 3 times. Then press each trigger fully down 3 times, and I'm assuming they mean simultaneously, because that's what I did and it seemed to work. Finally, press the A button to exit calibration. The indicator will return to its normal state. And thankfully this fixed it. Like, once I did this and, plug it back in and stuff, it was actually indicating 0% on the triggers, and then the various functions worked fine. And as a reference, there's the view button, there's the menu button, that's the home button. The view and the menu button are not labeled. They use essentially the fairly standard like Xbox labeling, but it doesn't have the name printed next to them like the home and the capture button, which is kind of weird because for the traditional PlayStation layout, which was based on the Super Nintendo layout, that would be your plus and minus, or menu and view, your start and select. So that's kind of backwards in my book. That took some getting used to, but yeah. So it didn't seem right to me, so that kept throwing me off. And the middle button that has like all the indicators and the LED thing, which you can turn off, by the way, which is very nice. That is the M button, which is also, the status indicator. Same thing. And this is actually very, very welcome. So the different modes that it has 4 different input modes, basically, which I think it actually saves changes in each mode like a profile. So it has a PC mode, an iOS/PC/Android mode, a Switch mode, and an Android mode, which is kind of strange. So the basic PC mode is essentially just your Xbox controller, like an Xbox One controller mode. And once you switch to that, the indicator will change to green momentarily. The interesting part here was the iOS, PC, and Android mode, they called DS4 mode? Which I was like, wait a minute, they have a DualShock 4 mode? That's that's a PlayStation mode. So I was like, well, it should... Maybe it'll work on PS5, not natively. But with Wingman FGC2, you put it in that mode, the DS4 mode, and it works perfectly. In fact, it's the only controller I've tested on the Wingman FGC2 where all 4 of the menu button, the view button, the screenshot button, the home button actually work as intended single inputs. Which is awesome, because so many controllers nowadays, and I've sent this feedback to Brooke before, have capture buttons or screenshot buttons, but they don't actually work as the share button on the FGC2. This one does. So your view button is essentially your touchpad button. The menu is like your options, and then the home button is your PlayStation button, and it just works perfectly. Only in that mode though. The Xbox mode works like any other Xbox controller on the Wingman FGC2. So the screenshot button doesn't work. For some reason. I don't know why. It's a strange caveat, but yeah, it doesn't. So, and last but not least, which in the tutorial stuff in the manual, they do have a lot of things that you can customize on the controller. It's all just like a combination of button presses and stuff like that. So, you know, be careful. Most of them are the M button and something else, or the home button and something else, and you have to hold for a sec. So, like, it's very unlikely you'll accidentally enter different modes. But as far as setting the back buttons, it's kind of straightforward. It's actually not that different from some other controllers I've used where you don't need software to set the back buttons. One of the best examples I can think of being the P2P rematch for Switch. Being a Switch controller, yeah, most of the Switch controllers that have programmable back buttons, you can just do on the controller without software. And it's kind of similar here. So you press and hold the M button and the back button, which they call L4 and R4, pretty straightforward, simultaneously until the controller vibrates once. The indicator will flash slowly in white. Press the button you want to assign, then press the back button again to exit and save. If you exit the setting process without pressing any button, the assigned value for L4 and R4 will be cleared. So if you want them to be mapped to nothing, that's how you do it. However, I like having them mapped to the stick clicks, aka L3 and R3. They don't call them that on here, but I'm assuming that's why they call the back buttons L4 and R4 instead of L3 and R3, because that's a fairly standard thing to call the stick clicks L3 and R3. Initially, I thought it wouldn't let you map the stick clicks to those, but that was actually before I did the calibration and the firmware update thing. So it was actually mapping like the L2 and R2, the triggers, to the back buttons because of those ghost inputs. Yeah, after I fixed that and tried setting the back buttons to the stick clicks again, it worked just fine. And yeah, everything else after doing the firmware update and the calibration just worked as intended. Occasionally, you do have to manually switch modes. It does by default auto detect modes and will switch when applicable. But most of the time, you don't have to do that. But in my experience so far on PC, the Xbox mode is the most user-friendly, the most compatible, especially with things like RetroArch, which I believe we have a clip right here. And yes, it did pass, in case you were wondering. It did pass the Armored Core test. And it actually felt really good. And you may wonder, like, well, what does he mean by the Armored Core test? Armored Core Nexus and Last Raven and, like, the games beyond that. Oh, and the 1000 hertz, sorry, more on that in a second. The 1000 hertz polling rate is very, very nice to have in emulators, programs like RetroArch that support early polling behavior. So typically if you're using a Bluetooth controller, like late polling behavior can result in better responsiveness depending on your VSync settings, depending on your monitor that you're using, its refresh rate, its latency, various things like that. Typically, if you have a fairly low latency setup and you're using a controller input method that is also very low latency, like aka 1000 hertz polling rate controller or higher, then early polling rate is typically going to be better. In my experience, late is almost always for Bluetooth controllers or if you have multiple controllers connected that use different communication methods. But I noticed a vast difference on the early polling behavior, which I had used previously because I almost always use wired controllers on RetroArch and similar emulators. Like, that 1000 hertz polling rate made such a huge difference. And even just like testing on the Switch, which I have, Tears of the Kingdom pulled up right now, it feels so good. Which, again, it has a Switch mode. And I tested it with multiple games, and I know Tears of the Kingdom on the original Switch, it does not run super buttery smooth like it does on the Switch 2. It's smooth enough. It's a solid frame rate, like 99.9% of the time. And I did do a full series on this game. That was a ton of episodes. I think it was the only series I've done that's like over 200 episodes. So even though this video is in 60 frames per second, I know this footage is not going to be in 60 FPS because the game just doesn't hit that target frame rate. And yeah, like if I take the bow out, typically rocking the controller around, if you have motion controls, will allow you to aim with motion controls. And about settings being saved per mode. Initially, I did have to swap the A, B, X, Y, A and B, and X and Y, because to those of you who are unfamiliar, like A and B are swapped and X and Y are swapped on Xbox, as opposed to their Nintendo counterparts. There is a function for that. The first time I connected it to the Switch, I had to toggle that so the buttons would actually be the correct buttons. And it should be, and aim with motion controls is enabled. This controller does not support it, unfortunately. And actually, to avoid spoilers, I'm not going to go through too many menus here, in case you guys haven't played this gem of a game yet. But yeah, I'm rocking the controller around. There's no motion controls at all. But the sticks feel very, very good and very, very accurate. And if you want to get those nice cinematic, like, slow pans, yeah, it's so nice on the lack of dead zones. And just, like, overall, even though it doesn't have the motion controls, like, the accuracy feels so good. So good. It's kind of incredible. So I think I can do this without let's see. We're just gonna go down here. There we go. And besides, you can change the mapping if you want to, but I don't have a custom mapping right now. And yeah, you may have to turn on Pro Controller wire communication if you haven't before. Test input devices. Here we go. Test. Screen. Wait, where's the... You can calibrate the motion controls now? When do they do that? Alright, let's do the buttons. Oh yeah, this feels like instantaneous. Yeah, and rolling inputs feel great. Oh shit, whoops. That's not what I meant to do. That's not what I meant to do. My bad, my bad. Okay. Alright. Um sorry folks. Now this will disconnect things sometimes on third-party controllers. Let's see if we can... Wait, can't we do a test without the calibration? Can't just test the analog sticks? Oh, no, no, you have to go into it and then you can choose to calibrate if you want to. But yeah, it's very, very nice. Even like the very slightest, like just doing very slight diagonals here. And then cardinal directions. And it actually, yeah, there's actually a little bit of default outer dead zone. Like I hit the outer ring on the tester before I actually hit the outer ring on the controller, which is totally fine. I don't like, actually don't mind outer dead zone really ever. It's inner dead zone that bothers me. And thankfully, you know, these are Hall effect sticks. So you know, I got zero concerns about future drift or anything like that. And let's go back and make sure. Let's do the buttons again. Yep. So that's counting as the stick click, but I'm hitting the back button, which has a very, it's a little muted actually, the way that it sounds. It's not as, like it feels very snappy. Oh, the right one sounds different. Huh. Wonder why that is. Feels the same. Sounds different though. But yeah, the oops, trying to just like not a big fan of the L's and R's, or L1s and R1s, or LBs and RBs. Same thing. Yeah, that is one thing that is slightly disappointing on this. And of course, the view and menu buttons are also tactile dome switches. They're very quiet though, so quiet. Yeah, that's the actual stick click. It just kind of requires a lot of force. I'm not a big fan of how it feels. That is partially why I wanted the back buttons mapped to it, because it just, I want to be pretty gentle with them since they are Hall effect and stuff, and not too concerned with like wear from normal use, but like I've never liked that feeling of jamming a stick down. It just, yeah, I don't like it. It's not my jam. It's not my jam. But yeah, Tears of the Kingdom is 100% my jam. I freaking love this game. And I like the drip. The drip is very, very good. But I think that about covers all the stuff I wanted to talk about. So yeah, GameSir, I don't know if you guys already have a T4 or if you guys are, you know, interested in notes from somebody who's only used your controller for a dozen hours. I'll have a lot more notes in a few months, but if you guys happen to be watching this, I do have notes for you guys. First of all, the analog stick heads, they do feel good. They do feel better than the stock heads of the Pro 2s. Congrats on that. I would still include fitted analog stick caps for increased control. Although the tension on the sticks feels appropriate for the level of grip. I just prefer analog stick caps because they're easy. Like, analog sticks get grimy over time. For the controllers I use all the time, I like having the caps on there because it feels better, and once they do get grimy, they're a lot easier to remove and clean and reapply. That way you don't have to actually disassemble the controller to clean that up, and that is a huge win in my book. 2. Not a big fan of how the shoulder buttons feel. Just gonna say that. The triggers are fine. Like the membrane trigger thing is okay. If you guys wanted to do a slightly more premium version of this controller, Hall effect triggers would be very welcome. And for the L1 and R1, I think that's how they're labeled. That is how they're labeled. Tactile dome switches. That being said, the membranes for the ABXY and the D-pad feel very good. They feel tight, they feel isolated. Congrats. The plungers on the home and the capture button feel shallow. It doesn't feel like I can easily and reliably press them without using like my thumbnail. It just, for whatever reason, maybe it's just my unit, it feels a little bit too flush. Either use longer plungers, or just make those tactile dome switches as well. It's already kind of confusing, and having them, they're kind of too close to the middle for how this layout feels. I would maybe, yeah. If you want to keep them in the same location, I would just use longer plungers to make them easily, like, pressable. That being said, I do like the ergonomics of this controller. Like I said, it passes the Armored Core test. That is to say, games where you're not really using the ABXY, you're using both analogs most of the time, and all 4 of the shoulder buttons most of the time. Most controllers are not designed in that way, because if you have the middle finger and index finger from both hands on the controller during gameplay, you really only have the pinky and the ring finger on the back of the controller, which is kind of perfectly designed on this controller because the ring finger is resting on the back button, and the tension is kind of perfect to where you're not going to be accidentally hitting the back button. And then the ABXY are essentially supplementary, but the ergonomics also work for if you're using it in the traditional sense where you're primarily interacting with the D-pad and the ABXY, which is very nice. So it's definitely good in all 3 grip modes, I would say, is one way to phrase it. So the Armored Core mode, the more traditional mode where you only have, I would say, the standard Pro Controller mode where you pretty much just have the index finger on the shoulder buttons and you can option select between the two. And then the Retro Pad mode, although, again, that is my other note. The analog sticks are kind of far apart from each other, which is fine, but they almost, like, you kind of brush them if you're primarily using the D-pad and the ABXYs. So I would just move them a couple millimeters closer together so they're a little bit more out of the way. And that's pretty much it. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. But overall, for a controller that's essentially half the price of the competition, highly recommend it. Oh, the cable. I do wish the cable was a little bit longer and detachable. Like, again, GameSir, if you guys are considering a little bit more premium version of this controller. Yeah, the included cable should be 10 feet or 3.3 meters. And if it was detachable, that would be fantastic. Because, yeah, I don't want to have to scrap a controller or go through a very annoying recabling process if something happens to the USB cable. Because, yeah, the hardwired cable on this controller is about 6 feet, which is kind of short, so I am having to use a USB extension cable to use it on the Switch right now. Which, depending on the USB depending on the USB extension cable that you choose to use, that can actually introduce latency, so some of that 1000 hertz pulling rate might be going to waste. Yeah. I think that's everything. Again, this is a bunch of notes kind of like slapped together from, again, somewhere between 10 and 15 hours of testing. It is pretty safe bet a dozen hours. But yeah, I can easily recommend this thing. Also, other colorways would be great. They only have this in the traditional gray that I showed earlier, and like a white variant. I like the traditional gray because it's kind of more the color scheme of the original PS1 DualShock, and I like that very much. But yeah, thanks for being here, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Of course, before we get going, it's time for the outro, special thanks, updates, all that jazz, and a very special thank you going out to the amazing people who helped make it possible, the current Parts and Crap Show members, which at the time of recording is Novalis Draconis, Aaron Schick, and 97 Johnny Boy. Thank you all so very much for choosing to support the show a bit more directly via channel membership. It vastly helps out. Very much appreciate it, and it is very much optional. So you guys are extra awesome for doing so. And if you want to be incredibly awesome like these amazing people and get in on all those membership benefits, check out that join button down below. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there's no join button for you. That's perfectly normal. That can happen for various reasons. There's also a link in the description that talks about becoming a channel member that will also bring up the membership tiers. And yeah, I'm going to drink some of this water here in a second because I've been talking pretty much for a solid hour. But yeah, long story short, membership tiers start at $3 a month. That's roughly 10 cents a day, and it gets you into all the basic stuff, including getting to vote in the series get made here on the channel via the members' choice polls. It's the thing we do once a month for a full week over on the membership tab, and that is how all of the series get decided. So if you guys want to get in on that, we do have the one for November 2025 happening right now if you guys are watching this around the time of release, and that will be ending at the end of the month. So that is deciding a retro classic series that will be following series that should be, it's Mega Man 7 is starting soon. But that's a short game, so yeah, we're deciding what's going to happen after that. And yeah, just whatever gets the most votes by December 1st is the winner. And that's over on the membership tab, as well as all of the previous members' choice polls. So if you're new, you can vote on as many of the previous ones that you missed as you want. So even if you're just a member for 1 month, you'll be influencing the content that gets made here for quite some time, because retroactive input on previous polls is considered for future ones. This is, however, an approximation of future announcements from the past, inevitably, so if you want all the announcements as they happen and the bell doesn't work for you, I gotcha, the bell does not work for me. But there are 4 other ways you can stay up to date. We have the post tab here on the channel, the Farts and Crap Show Twitter, the Bluesky, and the Discord. I always post on all 4 whenever there's an announcement, so regardless which one of those works for you, you can stay up to date. And links for those are down in the description, also on the channel banner. But that is going to do it for today. Thank you all once again for being here, guys. If you want to catch up on any of the current playlists, if you want to catch up on any of the current series, playlists for those should be popping up right about now. But yeah, till next time, take care, and I hope you have yourself a beautiful day.